All right, guys, here's another free response problem. It's from 2016. It's free response problem number 3. Okay. Basically, you guys have about 15 minutes to do a free response problem. I've been rushing them a little bit because I'm worried about making these videos longer than 10 minutes because then they're hard to post to YouTube. So I'll try and slow it down a little bit, and I'll break them into as many parts as I need to break them in because I kind of want to show you what you should be writing for these problems. So anyway, here's a problem. Here's a graph. It's a graph of f. So it's not a graph of f prime. It's not a graph of f double prime. It's a graph of f. So it's a piecewise linear function for that interval, and they're identifying a function g. Okay, g is the integral from 2 to x of f of t dt. So they're using the fundamental theorem of calculus. Okay, g starts. So that's the start point. That's the start point of g. So if I go forward, this adds to g because it's a positive area. This subtracts from g because it's a negative area. This subtracts from g because it's a negative area. This subtracts from g because it's a positive area going backwards. This subtracts from g, this adds to g because it's a negative area going backwards. Okay? So those are some of the basics. All right. When does g have a relative minimum, relative maximum, or neither at x equals 10? So they're asking me, do I have a max or a min at that point? So I know, so I'm going to start to answer A. Okay? G has a relative minimum when G prime changes from, so minimum, I was going down from negative to positive. It has a maximum when G prime of x changes from, I was going up, positive to negative. Okay? So I'm looking for G prime change in sign. Okay? G prime of x is f of x. Okay? G prime is f, if I take derivative. F of x doesn't change sign at x equals 10. Therefore, G of x has neither a max or min at x equals 10. Okay? That's the answer to A. A little bit wordy, but that's the answer. When I look at the scoring guidelines, that's worth 2 points. Okay? That's worth 2 points. And the scoring guidelines I'll include with the notes, so you'll get to see them. Okay, B. Does the graph of G have a point of inflection at x equals 4? Justify your answer. Okay, so when I look at that point of inflection, so POI is when G double prime x changes sign. So that's what I got to use. A point of inflection is where G double prime changes sign. I don't have a graph of G double prime. I got a graph of f, which is a graph of G prime. Okay? So I got a graph of G prime, but I need information about G double prime. Well, G double prime is the slope of G prime. So B. Let's see. So between, x equals 4. At x equals 4, the slope of G prime of x, which is the slope of f of x, changes sign. Therefore, G double prime X, therefore G of X, therefore G prime double X changes sign. Therefore, G of X has a POI at X equals 4. That's the answer. If I look, that's 1 point. So not a whole lot for that because there really wasn't a lot of work for that either. Okay, let's talk about part C. Find the absolute minimum value and the absolute maximum value of G on the interval. Okay? So guys, when you're thinking, so I'll start to write here, C. So absolute max means you need to check the max, I say relative. And guys, on the AP test, you see what I just did? I crossed out instead of erasing. They like you to do that rather than erase and take the time of erasing. So absolute max means you need to check the relative max points as well as the endpoints. The endpoints are x equals -4, x equals 12. Okay? So, where do maxes happen? Maximums, relative maximum happen where G prime of X or f of X, they're the same thing, goes from, you're going up, positive to negative. Therefore, when X equals, let's see, so where's F go from positive to negative? So let's see, I was positive, I was positive. Oops, sorry guys, I didn't read the whole question. They were looking for both minimums and maximums. That was confusing a little bit. So there's a maximum when X equals, so when X equals 6, I go from positive to negative. So there's a maximum there. Relative minimums happen where G prime of X or f of X goes from negative to positive. Therefore, when X equals, let's see, so it's right here, X equals -2. I was negative, now I'm positive. X equals -2. Okay? So guys, I'm going to make a little table. Okay? So the points I've got to worry about, I'm looking for G of X. Okay, I got to check the endpoint, so I got to check -4. There's a min at -2. There's a relative max at 6, and then I got to check the other endpoint, 12. Okay, so guys, G of X is the integral. So guys, this is the integral. It's the integral 2 to x f of t dt. So it equals 0 when x equals 2. Because if I plug 2 in, the integral from 2 to 2 is nothing. Okay? So I'm starting at 0 here. Okay? From here to here, it's the area of this triangle. 1/2 base times area. The base is 4, the height is 4. So 1/2 4 is 2, 2 times 4 is 8. So moving from 2 to 6, I get 8. Okay? Then when I go from when I go from here to here, the end point, okay, This area is the same as that. They cancel each other out. So then I just have this. 1/2 base is 1 times height is -4. So that's -4. So at x equals 12, I'm at -4. Going backwards from here, when I go backwards areas above are negative. So this is the same as that. So when I go backwards, I get -8. Okay, and then when I go back to here, that's a negative area, but I'm going backwards, so it becomes positive. So that is -8. I was at -8 at this point. That's -8. So if I add 4 to it, I get -4. Okay? So when I look at this table, the absolute, how do you spell absolute? You have to spell correctly? You probably don't. Absolute, just cross out that. Absolute max is g of 6 equals 8. The absolute min is g of -2 equals -8. That's the answer. Okay, guys, and if you look at the scoring criteria, which I'll include with the thing, that's worth 4 points. It's a lot of points, okay? So they give you 1 point for considering the maxes and mins, 1 point for considering the endpoints, and then 2 points to actually do the work. I'll do part D on the next video.